Aaron Ramsdale's dad has come out and attacked Mikel Arteta for not starting Aaron Ramsdale more this season, with David Raya coming in and taking the number 1 position. In this video, we're going to break down what I think the comments mean for Aaron Ramsdale, for Arsenal, Mikel Arteta, and if this is any good, if this benefits anyone. The short answer is no, it's embarrassing, it's tin pot, if you ask me. The comments were from an Arsenal podcast, I believe, with Kevin Campbell. Either way, Nick Ramsdale came out and said, Aaron's lost that smile. It's really difficult to see him there, and we all keep saying you need to keep smiling. Aaron is going to be Arsenal's cup goalkeeper, and David Raya is going to be the main man unless something happens. Even though the way it's been done, in my eyes, it's been wrong, and we can talk about that, but it's the decision. Now, everyone's got an opinion about everyone in every walk of life. But Aaron Ramsdale is one of the most high-profile footballers in the world. He's now number 2 for one of the biggest clubs in the world as well. What are these comments trying to achieve? I think they're really, really hazardous. I think they take Arsenal back a little bit. I think they stunt any kind of momentum. I think it has the potential, obviously I don't know, it has the potential to create a little bit of friction between Aaron Ramsdale, David Raya, between Aaron Ramsdale, Mikel Arteta. I think ultimately, if you had every average goalkeeper's dad coming out on Twitter, coming out on podcasts and bemoaning the fact their son isn't number 1, right, then I think you'd have millions of articles that all these media outlets can gobble up and make big quotes out of and create headlines out of nothing. That's the reality. The proof is really in the pudding, okay? The proof is in the fact that Aaron Ramsdale wasn't good enough to outcompete David Raya for the number 1 spot because he isn't good enough. He's shown massive glimpses to football fans around the world that at key points in games he flaps at things, he's unconfident. At key points in games he loses concentration. We'll talk about a few more comments where he came out, it was about a year ago I think it was, where he came out and talked about having a lack of concentration, but they've kind of been bundled together in this kind of attack on Aaron Ramsdale that has all started from Nick Ramsdale, let's be completely real. The reality is, Edison's dad could come out. Peter Schmeichel, when he was playing at Man United, his dad could come out and say something about Alex Ferguson, even though he never would in a million years. And because he's the best keeper in the world, let's take Schmeichel as an example in 1999, you're not going to drop Schmeichel. The reason Ramsdale's been dropped, it's not because of some weird political vendetta. It hasn't been handled wrongly by Mikel Arteta at all. It's been handled perfectly. He's playing in the biggest games for Arsenal, the best keeper, David Raya. Now, there's a lot of kind of arguments within football fans, on social media, but between Arsenal fans in particular, if David Raya is good enough long term, let alone Aaron Ramsdale. And that is a question. I thought when Raya would come to the club, he'd be a better keeper than he has been. He's made a few mistakes. It's not been perfect. And maybe that's where Nick Ramsdale's coming in saying, well, look at the keeper they've replaced, my son with. He's not even that good. I think the theoretical nature of the transfer of getting Raya in on a loan, relatively cheap. He was fantastic for Brentford last season. He has been for a few years now. I thought he'd come into the club and elevate Arsenal even more than he has done, because I don't think he's been incredible, but I still think he's been better than Ramsdale, who's actually made a couple of mistakes even this season. Pretty sure he made a big mistake against Fulham early on at home when they dropped points. So on one level, okay, you can be angry about your son not playing football matches, angry that your son isn't playing for one of the biggest clubs in the world, frustrated even. But then you have to really take a step back and say, is my son good enough to warrant, is he being randomly dropped for some sort of personal vendetta? No, he's being dropped because he's not quite good enough. And that's fine. He's a top 10, in the top 15 Premier League clubs kind of bandwagon. He is. He's a Crystal Palace keeper, Aaron Ramsdale, and there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. But when your dad comes out and kind of criticises Mikel Arteta, it has no positive impact, in my opinion, because people gobble up the story and they create headlines out of it, like the big newspapers, Arsenal fans. It's going to create, even if it creates 0.1% disharmony within the Arsenal squad. Raya thinking, why is your dad coming out and kind of backing you? I think it's a little bit pathetic. It's not been a good 24 hours for Aaron Ramsdale, because a clip with him and Ian Wright, he came out and sort of said something about the concentration of the game and how he goes a little bit missing for 3 or 4 games and then he snaps back. He even sort of said that he'll have a go at fans, or he'll take his eye off the ball a little bit, and then he'll have concentration for 15 minutes, and then suddenly it'll be half time. And you can kind of see, I mean, there have been some great edits on TikTok and Twitter of seeing Ian Wright's kind of puzzled expression. I don't remember it at the time, but now you look at it, you do think that is probably the worst thing you could possibly say as a keeper in any interview, that you don't concentrate, because every keeper probably doesn't concentrate. It's pretty hard. Even Peter Schmeichel, who I brought up earlier, I'm sure Peter Schmeichel, in some of the games where United smashed sides, which happened for over a decade he was there, whatever it was, I'm sure there are moments where he didn't concentrate. Then a ball comes in and he's a little bit 5% less focused than he would have been if he was busy being peppered with shots on goal. But the fact Aaron Ramsdale's come out, I mean, this is a PR nightmare for Aaron Ramsdale. He looks a little bit naive. I think his dad coming out looks petulant. It looks like a 14-year-old kid is being frustrated and not playing for his 11-a-side, Sunday league side that the manager's just randomly dropped in for the manager's son, for example. It's just like, it's petulant. And I have to say, I could see this coming. Nick Ramsdale called me a dick on Twitter. Me. He's bringing me into the fold. He's giving me publicity. And obviously I don't go out trying to cause publicity storms for footballers. I observe things. I talk about things in football and take my opinion to them. But the fact Nick Ramsdale was even prepared to call me a dick on Twitter just kind of elevates the situation out of nowhere. Because how relevant am I in any discussion about any Premier League footballer? 0% relevant, really. So Aaron Ramsdale, in my opinion, has to take a long, hard look. I'll be calling up my dad. I'll be calling up Nick Ramsdale. I'll be saying, please don't come out with anything else. Don't come out slating Jamie Carragher, because he came out and kind of criticised Danny Murphy, Jamie Carragher. And Jamie Carragher said what I said about the Oscar-worthy performative clapping of Aaron Ramsdale at the Emirates, and saying that it was a little bit embarrassing. And I actually tweeted the exact same thing at the same time, and I wasn't copying Jamie Carragher. It was a little bit performative. It was a little bit like, seeing like someone at the Oscars, like one of the losing actresses at the Oscars, clapping for, Meryl Streep winning her 5th Oscar. It's exactly the same energy. It's a little bit performative, a little bit cheap. And Aaron Ramsdale's not that. He's a very basic, down-to-earth kind of footballer that wants to just play football matches. The reality is, he isn't good enough for Arsenal. He won't be a Premier League winning keeper for Arsenal. I remember when Man City had Shea Given. He was a fantastic keeper coming slightly to the end of his career. And Mancini had to make a decision whether you have the stability at a 7 out of 10 performance for Shea Given, or try and get Joe Hart to be an 8 out of 10 and take his youth and his naivety and try and take him to that next level. And I think Arsenal have done that with David Raya. I think Ramsdale is the Shea Given in this situation, where he's a steady pair of hands, decent distribution, good energy, good vibes. He's a bit of a passion merchant. He shouts. I'm sure he makes Gabriel Saliba feel communicated to, for sure. And I know Arsenal fans love Aaron Ramsdale. Is he going to win then the Premier League? Is he as good as Van der Sar, Schmeichel, Cech? These are all Premier League winning keepers. Even Kasper Schmeichel's a better keeper. 100,000,000%. Ederson, Alisson, all these guys. Even David De Gea had a couple of good seasons, way beyond what Aaron Ramsdale's ever produced. And the reality is, Aaron Ramsdale's been relegated multiple times. And if Arsenal hadn't come to sign him a bit out of nowhere, let's be honest, a bit out of nowhere, then he would have been stuck at probably, Sheffield United in the Championship. Do you know what I mean? So these comments are a little bit backwards for Aaron Ramsdale's political plea to Arteta. Please put me back in. Here's what I can offer. And what's coming with that offer is now his dad coming out on Twitter, his dad coming out in podcasts. It's not a good look, and it's going to make it even harder for Aaron Ramsdale if he thinks he can elevate himself to be... He's only 25 years old. I'm sure he could get better as a keeper, but it's going to be a lot harder for him to do that at Arsenal. Now his dad's coming out and berating people. It's just a little bit amateur. It's a little bit pantomime, and actually I don't think it helps Arsenal in any way go on to win the Premier League, go on to win league titles, Champions League titles. It's just not going to work. It's made things even worse for Aaron Ramsdale, in my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you very, very soon.